with Hurricane Irene threatening to make a U.S. landfall. This is a good time to look at some trends in recent tropical activity in the Atlantic. Now, the simplest way to do this would be to just count the number of tropical storms and hurricanes each year. But in the past, especially before satellites, some weaker storms undoubtedly escaped detection, mainly those far from land that only lasted a short time. This issue likely played a role in this year's unprecedented string of 8 tropical storms to start the year, with none becoming hurricanes. The previous record was 6, but there's little doubt that at least a few of this year's storms wouldn't have been counted in the pre-satellite era. You can pretty much eliminate the undercounting issue if you focus only on hurricanes that make landfall in the U.S. After all, though coastal areas haven't always been as populated as they are now, it's hard to imagine a hurricane coming inland and nobody noticing. This chart shows the frequency of hurricane strikes for each stretch of coastline since 1900. Yellow, orange, and red indicate the most, 15 or more, dark blue the least, 2 or less. No big surprise that the 3 most vulnerable areas are extreme eastern North Carolina, South Florida, and the stretch from Mobile, Alabama to around Galveston, Texas. Now here's a look at the number of hurricanes per year to make landfall in the U.S. This goes back to 1950. The average is about 1.5 per year, which works out to about 1 out of every 4 hurricanes that form. The most in any year is 6 in 1985, 2004, and 2005, while in about 1 out of every 5 years, there aren't any, and that includes the last 2 years. In fact, since Ike hit Texas in September of 2008, 18 hurricanes have formed in the Atlantic, not including Irene, but none has made landfall in the U.S. Having that many hurricanes in a row without one hitting the U.S. is pretty unusual. The longest stretches we know of are 22 in a row from 1999 to 2002, and 17 straight between 1980 and 1982. Here's a couple other angles on this recent lull in U.S. hurricane landfalls. First, since 1850, which is about as far back as we have some reasonably reliable hurricane numbers, there have been 13 years with 10 or more hurricanes in the Atlantic, including last year. In every one of those years, except last year, at least 2 made landfall in the United States as hurricanes. Second, consider that most of the damage from landfalling hurricanes is done by the so-called major ones, Category 3 or higher, with winds above 110 miles per hour. The last 5 years, from 2006 to 2010, is one of only a few 5-year or longer periods without a major hurricane hitting the U.S. The other periods were, well, a long time ago, and may be tainted by the relatively small coastal populations at that time. So Irene looks poised to break at least one of these streaks. What impact, if any, will it have on Pennsylvania? Fred will let us know in the extended forecast next.